Good afternoon, Metro TV. This is Good Afternoon Ghana. And I'm Bryson Akwesi. Not the usual presenter, I'm here from Pofo. I'm doing this for her. We are coming to you live from the Accra TEMA motorway here in the Greater Accra region. Lots of issues happening here. A road constructed back in 1965, over 56 years of its existence. What exactly is the state of the road? A 16-kilometer route linking Ghana to different countries like Burkina Faso and Mali. Don't go, when I come back after this break, I'll tell you who my guest is here on the show. Welcome to Good Afternoon Ghana. Right, welcome back. Still here on Good Afternoon Ghana from the TEMA Accra motorway, a 16-kilometer stretch linking Ghana to Burkina Faso and Mali, constructed back in 1965, over 56 years. The state of the motorway. Is it okay? On the show this afternoon, I'll be joined by Emmanuel A. Sherry, CEO of Ghana Chamber of Construction Industry, and also Mohammed Al-Hassan Damba, who is a president of Ghana Institute of Planning, and lastly, Engineer Edward Melomi, who is a professional engineer, member of the Ghana Institution of Engineering, here as well here on the show this afternoon. As we come to you live from the Accra TEMA motorway, you can hear big sounds from behind the ambience, big cars, loads and all that going across the country and carrying things from the TEMA Harbour and all that. But I've been joined here already by Edward, who is an engineer. Can you come close to me, please? Good afternoon to you.
Yes, good afternoon.
Welcome to Good Afternoon Ghana.
Thank you.
It's great to have you here. Yes. Now, the state of the motorway. Yes. First of all, you've been here. The moment to go here, you started smiling. We were talking about the fact that how many years? Over 56 years.
Right.
Same state.
Right. You're right. Yes, so from the history we know about the motorway, we know it was first opened to traffic in November 1965. Right. And the motorway, what we call the motorway, the Accra TEMA motorway, is a segment of National Road N1, which spans the Lubo border all the way to Ghana's eastern border in Togo. The Accra TEMA motorway only forms 19 kilometers approximately of the 540 kilometers road section. It's a very small section, but Ghana, I believe, for policy reasons, decided to create a special road in this form in 1965. And right. From what we know from the history, Accra, TEMA was a designated industrial city, and it also was home to the seaport. So the TEMA motorway, from when it was built, has served as a major transit hub for moving of goods and merchandise from our industrial city to Accra and other parts of the country. Yes, so that is just a little background about the Accra TEMA motorway as we know it from the history. One may wonder what the if there's any difference in the unique name we give to the road. We call this the motorway and we call some other sections the highway. Right. Yes, so these are all expressions or terminologies we use to associate with roads that are high-speed roads. But motorways, as the name would suggest, literally, is a motorway exclusive for use of vehicles. It is not, typically, motorways would have controlled access by design, unlike other forms of road where people can come in and go out and there are intersections or interruptions. So this is the primary characterization of the Accra TEMA motorway. Another point of note is also that this road also serves a very important purpose in our national infrastructure architecture, being that the Accra TEMA motorway is constructed with a system of road surfacing referred to as rigid pavements. It is unique in its own sense, and this is perhaps one of the reasons why a lot of people refer to the Accra TEMA motorway with a lot of fondness. The surface, unlike other places, is grey, suggesting that obviously we see it's made of concrete. Unlike other forms of road, which is either asphalted or with bituminous surface. So this is the primary difference between this road structure and other road forms in Mavines.
The idea behind the construction of this road, it's amazing. Yeah. The fact that it's linking Ghana to several African countries, and Ghana's biggest harbour being the TEMA harbour just on my left hand. But then it's been serving this purpose for a long time. But after over 56 years old, isn't it time for an expansion? Isn't it time for, good caretaking of the road itself?
Well, change is the only constant, so it will not be out of place if we think that either the purpose of the motorway itself, as was originally intended, may have changed due to rapid urbanization and increasing change in land use purpose. Right. So initially we did not intend to have buildings adjoining the motorway, but yes, now we do. So it suggests a certain change in land use purpose. It could also be that whereas the motorway was conceived primarily to serve as a major express highway, because of developments and frequent traffic interruptions, it might be possible that we would redesignate the road as an option, really. So change is possible if we want to make any changes to it. The changes we can make would also relate to either rehabilitating the pavement structures as we have them now, building new ones. So the options are obviously limitless. This depends mostly, the option to take depends mostly on policymakers and persons with the responsibility for planning our national infrastructure.
I want to talk more about the fact that reconstruction and expansion has taken so long. I was earlier telling you about the document about 2012 where the document was signed for this place to be reconstructed. Made into a dual road where it's more expanded, it's more big to afford. Because as we speak right now, the number of people who apply the road has changed. Usually, if it was to be about 20,000 because of urbanization and increase in population and all that, the number might have been more. And so several cars use this stretch a lot than usual or formerly planned. Why is it taking so long? Who should be answering these questions?
Well, I think the
as an engineer, maybe definitely you might have to be send the petition to Parliament or something for this to be done.
Well, as I'm an engineer and member of the Ghana Institute of Engineering. Right. As a principle in our practice, we would not consciously act in ways as we put others in danger. So that is why we found it necessary to join these discussions and conversations about the safety situation on the motorway. But if you look at the motorway generally, the challenges the motorway faces currently can be put in three. They are all safety related. Safety by reason of persistent interruption of traffic or traffic interaction between motor vehicles and non-vehicles. There is also safety concern by reason of poor lighting, and then there's a safety concern by reason of the deteriorating road surface on the motorway. Right. If you take any of this, there could always be a solution we can proffer for any one of them. So if increasingly there are people using the motorway and competing for space with other forms of traffic like vehicles, etc., how do we manage that? So that itself is one management solution we can put in place, or engineering solution we can put in place, or law enforcement decision we can put in place. Another also is the second safety concern, being that as is typical with most of our national highways, a lot of people would complain when you leave urban settlements where there's a lot of lighting and you get on sections of the highway where there's very limited lighting. A lot of people would complain that it is dark, it's not visible, and that is one of the complaints that has been associated with the motorway. So yes, if we want to solve that safety challenge with the motorway also, it is possible. The third one I refer to, which deals with the safety concern from the current state of the surfacing, is one of major concern because, as can be seen, a lot of people in recent times have agitated about the poor state of some of the sections. But we must also commend policymakers. It cannot be that there is no consideration for improvement of the motorway. As we know, we have this stretch of the highway has already seen improvement towards where we refer to as La Paz. And we call that the N1. Forget that this also forms part of the N1. On the other side, across from TEMA, also, there is currently a redevelopment of an interchange. Right. A first tier was built, a second tier is being built currently, and the road development is progressing from that place onwards towards the Central University direction. So it can be seen from all these examples I've cited that indeed, and in fact, recently, just the Boteman Road, you see, that has also come true. So it can be seen from all these examples that there seem to be an attempt to bring about improvement. One of the unique things about road improvement is general infrastructure procurement is how long it takes typically for processes to be, to go through processes. For major transit ways like this, Accra TEMA Motorway, I believe in the mind of anybody wanting to carry out any improvement works, you are wondering what the best form of improvement should be, such that the economic value that the roadway has created in the past over 50 years could still be realized. So we know that in the over 50 years there's been a toll booth on this road generating income. So I'm sure policy makers, planners, implementers are in a dilemma as to how best to put in place an even modern structure than what is here currently, such and also realize the benefits of economic returns. But like I said, the primary concern of the engineer is to ensure that there is public safety and that we do not knowingly create situations that put the public in any form of harm.
Now, you just spoke of public safety.
Right.
Let me ask you this. Would you say that the motorway has outlived its purpose?
Not at all. Not at all. It has not outlived its purpose. In fact, to have a dual carriageway, meaning that to have a dual carriageway and with multiple lanes itself is a uniqueness. I'm sure you go to a lot of places and they still have roadways that are shared carriageways. So the vehicles going either way or drive within the same carriageway. Right. The motorway, by its design, even from more than 50 years ago, remains very relevant, and it's still modern in a lot of ways. Indeed, just as with anything that would have lived for more than 50 years, it does need improvement. Surely does need improvement, and I have no doubt in my mind that some improvements can be brought to this motorway.
As an engineer, how urgent is it for this a reconstruction of this motorway is supposed to be done? How urgent is it?
Right. In planning infrastructure, it takes time to realize.
How long are we looking at?
Sorry?
How long are we looking at?
Well, it's not my place to say how long or how urgent it should be, but there's no doubt that the motorway would need some improvement. And
no, I'm asking because I believe as an engineer, you do your own research, you have your own research you conduct, and knowing how long this motorway has been here, 1961, 64, over how many years now, and a lot. Would you say that, as we speak, we need it to be reconstructed so urgently that we can even shut it down and make sure that we do a rediversion of cars and all that?
Right. So just as I explained, you will see on either side of the motorway that there is some improvements going on. And in fact, even along the motorway, so I cited previously the other extension from Tetekwashi with an interchange. Also now, from the Accra toll booth towards Tetekwashi, you would also find that there is another overpass crossing the motorway towards this Legon, right? And then I also cited the example of the Boteman, which joins, and then the TEMA end improvement works going towards Akosombo or going towards Sogakope in the Volta region. There are visible signs of improvement. A critical road that a lot of travelers would ply would be exiting from TEMA. Now there are alternative exits from TEMA, one being the Boteman and the other one being the Beach Road as options. So sometimes for some major infrastructure to be put in place, there has to be alternate routes created to enable any major improvements to be brought to the existing infrastructure. So seeing all that is going on, I have no doubt in my mind that indeed policymakers have every intention to bring about improvements to this infrastructure. I have no doubt.
Let me play the devil's advocate to ask you this. I mean, how much do you think the country needs for a work like this? I mean, try and give me a figure, please.
No, it would be irrational to give that kind of estimate, because every infrastructure comes with its own unique features. So the redesign or reconstruction of the motorway would take its own unique purposes. But I think that, like I've said consistently, there is no doubt, given all that is going on, that policymakers are indeed minded by this. In fact, I would cite a recent quote at the FIDIC Global Infrastructure Conference, which is basically the professional body for infrastructure practitioners, just as the GHIE focuses on engineering. Infrastructure practitioners go beyond engineers. At that conference, one of the key decisions was the relevance of infrastructure to political office holders or persons in government, as we like to call them. And coincidentally, at this conference recently was the Minister for Roads and Highways, and he indeed made a point that for politicians, if I attempt to quote him, infrastructure is key. So knowing that such a person who is minded by the importance of infrastructure to national development and also for any political regime, I have no doubt in my mind that for all intents and purposes, there will be plans in place to improve the motorway, or that there are plans that could be advanced. And a lot of time, given what I've observed in my practice so far, there are a lot of disruptions to procurement processes. Bidders could pull out at the last minute. Planning, financing considerations could change, and some of these factors.
What could cause that?
Varied reasons. I'll give an example. In some, not relating to Ghana, but in some other parts of Africa, who were experiencing benefits of infrastructure development support from countries such as Brazil, Argentina, and even China, suddenly at a point lost those funding, and projects these governments were funding had to be put on hold because the governments themselves were undergoing various economic downturns, and there were changes in their local economies which affected their overseas investments. So the factors that can influence change in policy and or development agenda can be varied and numerous. But from all that we see and the danger that the current state of the road may pose, I will shudder to think anyone on purpose would not want to give it the attention it needs. Yes.
In your earlier submission, which is factual anyways, when the road was built, I mean, there were no houses here. It wasn't even built for houses to be constructed around the road. But that's what we are seeing now. Factories, big factories are popping up. Billboards. Sometimes you are driving and you hardly see the next road because of a billboard blockage and all that. Should it be that government should make sure that all these houses and billboards on the roads are cleared off? Should it be a factor? Because you know, number of accidents we record here in a week or a month or so.
Yes. So the options available to policymakers are many. It all depends on the approach to addressing this roadway improvement. So, for example, for the short term, one of the concerns is how do you manage vehicular traffic interactions and human traffic interaction on the motorway. To address human traffic interaction and vehicular traffic interaction problems, which itself poses safety to the road, both road users, either the pedestrian or the motor vehicle users. Right. It could easily be managed with laws or rules, or another way from infrastructure point of view would be to reclassify the motorway. So as I explained, a motorway is a speedway.
Right.
But we have other roads which are also dual carriage, just as the motorway, such as the Medina to Accra road. It's also dual carriage, multiple lanes even, from Tetakwashi towards La Paz. It's also multiple carriage, yes, multiple carriage and then multiple lanes. So it is possible to reclassify the motorway to become a regular urban arteria. By a regular urban arteria, it would mean that we can put in place traffic calming measures.
Like what exactly? Does it mean that it's going to serve like the usual type of road where...
Right.
That's what you're saying.
Right. Because as you observed, the land use has changed all around the motorway. So you observe, right, that we didn't used to have some kinds of infrastructure or buildings along the motorway. Now they've all sprung up. They all need access to the motorway to move about. On either side, you have all of those. So the land use planning regime has changed, obviously, to repurpose land that perhaps was designated as a reserve, road reserve, as a place for factories. I know in the 90s there were buildings that were put up along the motorway which were put down, but now new buildings have sprung up in its place. So it is clear without a doubt that the land is changed. So if it has changed, what happens to the infrastructure being the roadway in the within the settlement? It is possible that one of the options to resolving safety concerns could be reclassifying it. And I was explaining that when we reclassify the road, we have the benefit of installing safety measures. One of them could be traffic calming. And we know on some roads, the traffic calming measures could be humps, rumble strips. We could also have intersections, which are purposeful intersections. So on the motorway these days, you get you see sudden entries, egress, exit and entry into the motorway. When we redesignate the motorway, an advantage could be that we would purposefully allow for people to come in and exit the motorway, but safely. It could also mean that we would cause a reduction in the speed limit on the motorway. At its design peak, the motorway allowed for speeds of up to 100 kilometers per hour. That is high speed. It's not the kind of speed that you allow in settlements, built-up areas. So if the land use purpose around the motorway has changed, then if we reclassify as one of the many options available to policymakers, it could very well mean that we could also regulate speed by the many measures that exist for us.
And does that mean we should be looking elsewhere for a new construction of a highway like the motorway if you're going to reclassify this route? Is that what we should be thinking of?
Well,
don't worry, I'll come back to you. Take your time and think of that.
All right,
I'll come back to you and we'll still be talking. I'm still here with Engineer Edward, and we are talking about the fact that it's been how many years? Over 50 years since the construction of this Accra-Tema motorway, 16-kilometer road linking Ghana to Burkina Faso, Mali, and its environs. We're still here on Good Afternoon Ghana. I am Bright and Akwesiamani. We are back after this break with more. Stay with us. All right, so we're still here on the Accra-Tema motorway here in the Greater Accra region. We are talking about the fact that it's an old route. What exactly is government doing about it? Ever since toll booths were stopped from working, a lot of things have been happening here. Squatters have almost taken over the route. Just right opposite me is an emergency response first aid building that looks like a white elephant. It's almost gone. Toll booths are still, but then it's not working. Potholes all over the place. Engineer Edward Mamle believes that it's time that government may want to consider reassigning the route, not to be as a highway, but like any other route where we might be looking at reconstructing a different motorway of such nature at a different place to create same purpose, linking Ghana to Burkina Faso, Mali, from Tema port to Accra and the rest of the continents. But yeah, I'm still here with Engineer Edward. Engineer, can you come close to me, please? I'm still here with him. Engineer Edward Mamle, we are talking about the fact that the motorway needs a refixing. Engineer, tell me, if there should be a reconstruction of the motorway, what would you want to see be added or subtracted from it?
Well, there can be many improvements brought to the motorway, but as I've tried to explain, every segment of our infrastructure serves a unique purpose. So if we take the motorway to make the current motorway as it is in any improvement scenario mimic the existing infrastructure from where the traffic transits from towards on the other side of the motorway from Tetekwashi, you would find that there are multiple lanes than we have on the motorway. This would mean that traffic volumes can easily be carried if we allow for more space, and perhaps when it is transiting, we may not have the bottlenecks that would exist by funneling action. So yes, if it is possible that additional lanes can be added, it should be. If it is possible to elevate some of the turns to make left-turning traffic possible, it should be considered such that persons who would want to connect from one side of the motorway don't necessarily have to travel to the end of the motorway and make a turnaround. And as the whole world moves towards ensuring that there is sustainable development, some of the options of improvements we can bring would have to take into account nature-based, what we call nature-based solutions, such that there isn't particularly major interruptions to the natural habitat, that the natural habitat is preserved. We also need to put in place an infrastructure that is future ready, what I call future ready. So if you say this motorway is more than 50 years old, it was built 50 years ago,
Exactly.
but it's still useful to us today, albeit it's a little concern. So that road built back then was future ready. So what we will put in place next must also be future ready and serve its lifetime purpose. Typically for most rigid pavements, they last up to 30 years. And beyond that, we estimate that their life span is reached, and we should expect the kind of deteriorations that we are seeing. It's not out of place. So my recommendation, if it is worth considering, would be that should we want to have improvements to the roadway, we would have to make it future ready.
So earlier I was telling you about how a contract was signed back in 2012 and what is expected to be done here on the way if there is a reconstruction. Let me quickly tell you this. It says now the project will upgrade and extend the motorway between the capital, Accra, and the city of Tema, which is also the country's largest port. Existing 19.5 kilometers road will be reconstructed and expanded into a 2-lane dual carriageway with an extra lane added in urban areas. A number of interchanges will also be modernized. Work will take place over a period of 48 months, which is about 4 years, right? Right. And it says the minister also said that phase 1 of the 27.7 kilometer Accra Tema motorway and extension project will be procured and executed as a public-private partnership PPP using a Ghana Infrastructure Investment Fund special purpose vehicle. The project involves transforming the Accra Tema motorway into a 4-lane expressway with a 3-lane service route. I want you to explain to me what this means.
Right.
Yes. So it says that Accra Tema motorway into a 4-lane expressway with a 3-lane service route in both directions and interchanges at Old Lashibi, Ashaman Under Bridge, Community 18, and the Tishin Link. It also involves remodeling the Tetekwashi interchange. The concession agreement and draft engineering, procurement and construction EPC agreement have been finalized and waiting for construction to be done back in 2012. So I want to find out from you, express highway or expressway. Right. What is it?
Yeah, so expressway, highway, motorway are all terminologies associated with high-speed routes.
Right.
The fundamental difference.
So that means you can actually go top speed here on this route.
Yes, you are allowed to travel at speed limits specified for the various sections of the road. So, like I was saying, highways, motorways, expressways all have speed associated with them. They allow for vehicles to travel at higher speeds than urban speeds or settlement speeds allowed within settlements. The fundamental difference between what one may call an expressway or the motorway would be that there is controlled access. There's controlled access, which is that it will not allow other traffics to come into the roadway as those at grade would allow. All other forms of highways would allow. An expressway typically would have controlled access. If you want to exit, there's a slip that you can use. If you want to come in, there's a ramp on which you can get to get in. So there's always an exit or entry ramp which you can use very conveniently. Typical example is using the Tetekwashi interchange. When you're traveling from Tema towards the Tetekwashi interchange and you get to the interchange, there's a slip. There's a turn that takes you off and allows you to maintain a still safe speed and allow you to slow down gradually.
Right.
Similarly, if you want to come onto the motorway using the same interchange, there is also a ramp, an entry ramp, which allows you to progressively come in whilst picking up speed to match the speed on the expressway. So these are some provisions of expressways. Unlike the other forms of the highway, so I refer to the N1 as being a stretch of 540 kilometers from Côte d'Ivoire to Togo on the coastal boundary of Ghana. Along this route, you'd find that although it's a highway, there are many what we typically call junctions, referred to as junctions, or intersections along the way that are at grade, or they are the same level as the existing highway, and easily allow traffic to come in. Sometimes we hear of accidents where traffic enter the main highway abruptly, resulting in other vehicles colliding into them. Right. So highways can allow vehicles to come in, but typically expressways will have controlled. As that's the fundamental difference between the different forms of highways.
You are an engineer. I don't believe when the road was being constructed, a parking space like this, if my cameraman can actually just come quickly for show them. If I don't believe when the road was being constructed, this parking lot here was part of the plan. What exactly might have caused this? Alex, if you can kindly help me pan to show viewers what exactly it is here. It's been turned into a truck parking lot, which is a bit scary. Because imagine coming from Accra in the nights, going to TEMA and its environs, and you end up using the third lane through the towing booth. What might happen might be sad.
Right.
How do we keep such things? Aside the fact that, I mean, at first it was only being kept because there was a tow booth here, and so there were regulators, there were security men and all that here. I mean, police personnel and all that here. But it's not happening again, and we are seeing all these things here. Yeah, it's like a resting place for them.
Right. So this is typical for most expressways or highways. For most highways, we build purpose laybys for trucks to rest.
Right.
For a lot of the high goods vehicles.
This admitted. This is okay. Is it okay?
No. I'm not by any way endorsing this practice. What I'm saying is that for typical highways, there are purpose-built places where heavy goods vehicles or trucks of this nature can conveniently park. And indeed, on this Accra-Tema motorway stretch, there is one such provision along the route. It's actually from TEMA. So from traveling from TEMA to Accra, there is on the right, there is an axle weighing station and a convenient place for most trucks to rest for a moment. What we are seeing here is a situation where the vehicle users, just as they say, nature abhors vacuum. Because there is excess space not being used, the truck drivers have found it convenient to use this place as a momentary resting place for them. So, but indeed, it is not safe. It is not the proper design for this.
Right. I'm still here with engineer Edward Melomi. That's correct, right? And luckily, you've been joined by Mohammed Al Hassan Damba, who is president for Ghana Institute of Planning. Thank you so much for joining us. Yeah, I'm told you owe us for coming here late, but it's all good. Thank you so much. Now, I'll be speaking with engineer Edward about the fact that it looks like there's conversation. Some school of thought believe that the motorway or the highway here, linking Accra, Tema, Burkina Faso, Mali, has outlived its purpose. Where do you stand on this?
Not really. We just have to do the necessary maintenance works and improvements to ensure that it functions as it's supposed to be. Let me say that the motorway or expressway, as it's known elsewhere, is supposed to be exclusive to high-speed vehicles.
Only?
Yes. Pedestrians are a no-no here. Bicycles, no-no. Motorcycles, no.
But there goes the motorbike.
Yes. So
there goes the motorbike.
Yeah, so I'm leading to the reason why it's still useful, except that we need to do certain improvement. And the reason why we got these other modes, sharing the space, the motorway space, with the vehicles is that we do not have service roads on the sides of the motorway to serve the communities that flank the motorway. And so in the absence of these service roads, you find all modes, including pedestrians, as you can see all over, sharing a motorway, which is very, very strange. Yeah, it doesn't happen anywhere.
Interesting, like you said, there are no extra road beside the motorway that will serve the communities and all that. But funny enough, during the construction of this motorway, I don't think it was made for buildings to be constructed close to the motorway. Am I right or wrong?
No. Motorways have what we call right-of-ways. They have reservations, spaces made available or earmarked for that.
For future buildings?
Yes, function. And if I'm not mistaken, this motorway is supposed to have a road reservation of no less than 300 feet.
Right.
Yeah. And so beyond that, the zoning arrangements, may allow other uses to happen. Now, in the case of the motorway, if you look on the right towards motorway bound, TEMA bound, on the right, you find a lot of industrial concerns, a lot of industries. Then to the left are residential properties. That's okay, because you find buildings along motorways also elsewhere. What the challenge is in Ghana is that, for example, we don't have sound barriers to protect these residences from the noise that is emanating from the motorway, and also to prevent people from intruding the motorway space. So, like I said, in the absence of these improvements, the motorway would continue to underperform as it is. But that is not to say that it's outlived its usefulness. Let me say that the planning authorities are already ahead. And as far back as 10 years ago, I was personally involved. We have looked at another alternative to this motorway, which is a 90.
Is that what actually brought in the signing of the contract back in 2012?
No, not at all. Not at all, because the city is growing. In the 90s, the Accra was defined as any space from the shoreline up to the motorway.
Right.
So that constituted Accra proper. Any area beyond the motorway was considered a peri-urban community. Right. And so by policy, even land use policy, all structures of iconic nature are supposed to be located south of the motorway towards the shoreline.
Right.
But as we speak, we all know what's happening. The city is spread even up to around Aimensa and climbing.
Yes.
So that means that we have to make another provision that will route traffic, large trucks, away from the city center. And so as I speak, a 93-kilometer outer ring road has been provided for. And it begins from a point called Miocho, around the Central University. Okay. It routes through to, it goes all the way to Mobole. These are villages. Mobole, to around just behind the Forest Hotel. Okay. It enters Adamrobe to Aimensa, Media, continues to Adaukwa, and then appears at Budubram. Okay. That is the arrangement, the planning arrangement. Let me say that the engineering works are yet to commence. Proper feasibility studies are yet to be done on this.
Sorry to cut, but here you are telling me that about 13 years ago, right? Yes. This plan was made.
Yes, I was.
You were a part, yes. And as we speak,
yes,
feasibility work has not even started.
We have had a lot of, projects like this require private sector participation.
13 years?
No, things don't happen just like that. I have personally taken interested parties to site to attempt to do some feasibility. Now, if they look at the alignments, an economic decision and financial decision has to be made.
Right.
And if they find it viable, especially if you find the private sector getting involved, then they will proceed. Otherwise, if there are other considerations, then they may have to wait. Because as part of this project, we were actually looking at the possibility of tunneling. So creating tunnels, let's say, beneath the immense side of the hill. Right. So we don't find vehicles, rising and falling as the terrain currently appears to be. And so these are the arrangements. So I would insist.
We keep getting arrangements have been made. Oh, contracts have been signed. Oh, monies have been released. Almost to every project that happens here in the country. But asking when it commences and how it ends, that's a problem. 13 years ago, and this was done. And nothing has even started, not even visibility. Is that not a worry to you?
Yeah, this is a good question, but it's a question to a politician, not me.
Yeah, exactly. But but you were a Ghanaian. You know what this means. You know what construction. You know what this means.
We ordinarily would all expect that. Projects move expeditiously, so people would have the relief that they want. We will have the economy, running faster than it is, because this motorway has an average daily traffic of between 30 to 40,000 vehicles, 50% of which is related to the TEMA port. And because of all these intrusions, you have a lot of accidents happening. And by my last check, in the last 3 years, we have about 45 persons dying per year on the average.
45.
45.
On the Accra Tema Motorway.
That Tema Motorway alone. Because between 2021 and 2023, 136 people, according to the MTTD report, died. In 2018 alone, 150 were injured, 39 died. So it's a serious concern that needs urgent attention. But like I said, I want to repeat that if we introduce improvements here, the motorway's capacity will be restored and we wouldn't find the challenges we currently find with the motorway.
Right, and I was asking earlier that, I mean, as we wait for all this to be done, what should we be doing as Ghanaians, as government? What should we be doing to ensure that we curb all these minutes from the accidents, from the robbery? A time ago, I was passing in the evening and I saw somebody throw a bottle in the way. That means if the car had stopped at the time, you know, might have been attacked. And because there were no street lights at the time. So as we wait for this money that this contract has been signed to start working and all that, what should we be doing as government and as a people?
Yes, my view is that we can improve the situation on the motorway by first of all creating service lanes for vehicles that do not need to use the motorway.
That should be the first option.
Yeah, that's important. It should happen immediately. We also need to create exits, good exits from the motorway like we have at the community 18 side, so that we don't find vehicles entering and exit just anywhere on the motorway and causing accidents. We also need to make provision to pedestrian crossings, because whether we like it or not, at this point, we find pedestrians interacting between, you know, the industrial enclave around the Manet and then the other side of town. And so this has to be done. If this happens, people would legally use the routes that have been created and then stop doing all the intrusions that we currently find on the motorway. In my view, this together with good lighting would improve the motorway almost instantly. Of course, I don't need to emphasize the need to improve the riding surface.
Exactly, it has to. We can hear sounds.
Deplorable.
We can actually hear sounds as the vehicles apply the road. We can hear sounds and all that.
Yes. So the roughness, the road condition, to be frank, is not the best, and we would all wish that some immediate improvements are done to ensure that people drive safely. And so, like I said, lighting is very, very, very critical. Lighting is critical. Let me admit that once in a while the lighting projects come on board, except that they are not well policed, and so you find thieves, you know, pulling the lights off and so on.
On the highway like this, where we first had a towing booth here, a tow booth here. I don't say a tow booth here, and all of a sudden it was halted. You can see how this place looks. It's so unkempt and not even neat. The sad one is this part, so where the record site emergency response first aid units. The building is there, but there's nothing in there. Should we go back on this? Should we actually make sure, at least, even if we are going to halt all toll booths in the country, at least that of the motorway should be brought back?
Well, we all know that tolling roads is critical. It's necessary.
But at least if governors want to bring it back or have it effective, at least this of the toll booth here at the Accra motorway. What do you think?
No, well, it's not about having a toll booth or not. It's about getting the system operational. It's about getting. You can have the tolling happening without the booths. You know that. Yes, and so it's about getting the space operational, like you just said, having a structure meant to house emergency response teams, right. Almost abandoned, bushy and all of that.
Not almost, it has been abandoned.
Well, this is what I find. And so if we have improvements happening to these things, I think that we'll be okay. I mean, look at how unkempt the space is. That is somebody's job somewhere. It's part of somebody's job description. And I would quickly defer this to the highway authority to say that they would have to up their game as far as improving the environmental conditions along the motorway is concerned.
Right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, my friend.
So you've been watching Good Afternoon Ghana here with me, Bryce Nanakwesem, all the way from the Accra TEMA motorway. Like we were told earlier, reconstructed back in 1964, and it's still working. And according to engineers I've spoken to here this afternoon, they rather prefer that it will be reassigned, if not a reconstruction should be done. like almost every single time. We just heard from Mohammed. Like a year or two ago, every single year, quite about 45 people dying on the road here alone. What's going to be done? I am Bryce and this has been Good Afternoon Ghana on Metro TV. Have a good afternoon and bye.